I guess. Okay, I am broadcasting in a whole new way. I don't know what I'm doing. I am supposed to be monitoring this. I don't even know if I'm live. It says stop streaming over here for me in this part of my screen. So that must mean that I am streaming. One moment. I'm on my channel. Do I have a live going on my channel? Yes, I do. That's great. It's working. No, okay. If I'm live, it says stop streaming. Oh no, I can hear myself like 3 seconds ago. I'm gonna have to turn my volume down. So that must mean that I am streaming. Okay. Um, I can see myself a few seconds in the past. Super confusing. Check out my new tricks. I'm learning. I can do different zooms now. I can go regular and then tight, and then I got it all the way up to like just paper. So here's my desk that someone bought for me a long time ago. And I'm going to do you drawings on it because that's what I'm doing tonight. And I can keep those settings there. And then I can keep this here so I can see what I'm doing. Great. Okay, where's the chat? How do I know if this is working? I can see you. Avocado atrocity. Okay, so YouTube makes this really easy, so I can actually just see my chat. That's like great. All right, let's get to some questions and draw some stuff. Merry Christmas to all of you, I guess. Hello from New Hampshire. This is not the right level of zoom. Let's just do that one. There you go, that's much better. New Hampshire is probably pretty nice right now, I bet. Let's do a little New Hampshire home math girl with a Santa hat. Just real quick drawing for you. This little puffball. Her bow is hidden, and I'll just put like, that's actually not that great. Let's do the white mountains behind her. The white mountains are kind of gentle. New Hampshire-y, snowy mountains that go off into the distance. Let's do the dress. And like a candy cane. The candy cane is, I should mention, well, I shouldn't, but I, do anyway. The candy cane is a bastardization of a J for Jesus. They originally made the candy cane, and I'm only like 50% sure that this story is true. It might just be some propaganda I heard when I was in like a kid going to church. But I heard that some monk or something made it to be J for, well, the other way around, obviously, for Jesus. That would be Lysis. And then they just turned it into a prosthetic for a cripple in order to secularize it, which is what they do to everything. Remember that Jesus is the reason for the season. He died for you, whether you wanted him to or not. Merry Christmas to Nova Terran. Merry Christmas to Avocado Atrocity. One of my favorite. Nova Terran says, am I doing anything for Christmas? No, I'm just working. And that is the one thing that makes me the closest to happy, so don't worry about it. I'm upping my video quality. I'm including more fun things, moving text and sound effects and such. Fan funding. Oh, okay. The funding is light tonight. You guys spent all your money on presents already. Yeah, no, I'm not doing anything for Christmas because I moved far away from where I lived for the last 2 years to get away from the feeling of being there, since I hated it, and to get away from one particular person who knows who they are. And my new place is really, it's pretty cool. I have like a very large window. Like if this is the size of me, then there's a window like this big in my main room, and I can see trees and mountains behind it. It's a great view. It's exactly what I wanted. Homath, what's the two men the girls on TikTok are talking about? I don't know. I haven't watched any TikToks for about 4 months, and I also have not posted for about 5 months. I took a real long break from TikTok because it's brain poison. I will be going back to it. I'm currently making a video off of a recommendation that I got on TikTok. Like I went into my mentions, and someone gave me a good video to make a video of. It's going to be, I don't know, 15 minutes long or so. It looks like I moved close to the mountains. Yeah, I did. Homath doesn't want to see bitches out his window. I really don't. I really don't want to see any more, uninvited women in my life right now. There is a constant stream. It's not a big stream, but there is a constant stream of women who find me impressive and jump in my comments and tell me that they want to marry me or other stuff. Most of them are a very clear no from the get-go, but some of them are actually quite interesting. But they are not outside my window, so that's good for me. The J is back. Yeah, I know. I have candy cane dyslexia. Did the L instead of the J. Does anybody else continue to do like D's and B's backwards sometimes, even into adulthood? Like sometimes when I'm absent-mindedly writing, I'll go like get datteries or something, and then I'll look at it and I go, God damn it, I gotta go do the B. It's a real mess. Okay, we got a paid one. Bo Picard says, nice to hear you're going through changes. Yeah, they're mostly good changes. I'm getting exercise again too. It was really hard to get cardio on my trip. Been watching your channel most of this year and has been great. Bless up and Merry Christmas. Bless up is one I have not heard before. Let's just do a little video game icon for that. I should get a sound effects panel to play for you while I am doing these lives, because the broadcasting software that I'm using, first of all, it's making my computer sweat, which is discouraging, because when I do a normal live broadcast, it's like not that big of a deal, but my computer for some reason is struggling, and it's not like an old computer. I think it's 4 years old. I think it has 32 gigs of DDR or whatever is the current impressive RAM. So there's the cross and the plus. It's a bless up. And the cross should be green. That's mint green. I have too many greens. So I'm wearing my Christmassiest clothing. It's my most festive clothing. It's like a dad sweater that my last girlfriend made me buy. She said that she wanted me to wear like nice, comfy dad stuff, which is not really my style. But I was like, you know what? I could do this. It feels comfortable. And then she wanted me to spend way too much money on it. And I was like, what about one I can afford? And then she said, okay. And then I bought it and wore it, and she said she hated it. And I said, well, what did you mean by okay then? Like, I can't just like know that when you say okay, it means that you hate it. Although I guess I could have paid closer attention, but that was one of the densest miscommunications that I've ever had it was like a long conversation about the clothing that I should be wearing that ended up in me buying something I would not otherwise have bought just because she wanted me to. And it turned out that she didn't actually like it. Not that I'm bitter. I hope she's doing great. I bet she is. I bet she's having a good time. It's a little Jesus cross. Give it some texture with different browns. Who else do we have? I've got a fan funding from New Zealand. Etlalstro. What is the hell is that? You guys have the weirdest names. L Talstro. I'm sorry, my screen is too far over there. I've got a big screen here, and then my laptop screen is like over in the corner of my desk. I can't read it. I've heard you several times say that over 40, you're basically perma-not people. That's definitely not what I said. When you age, you fall more and more into, I guess I could draw you a graph. That's kind of what I do, right? As you age, and it happens more quickly for women than it does for men, unless you are just an unattractive man, in which case you never had it in the first place. But as you go like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, as you age, if we start at 18 for like legal reasons, I guess, can't go saying that people are attractive on their 17th, on like the day before their 18th birthday. So men like reach their peak of attractiveness if this is the 100% here, the most attractive you'll ever be. Men reach the peak at about 27, so they kind of come up real quick and hang out here, and then go gradually down, and they get towards the bottom at like 60, right? And women reach their peak at 22, go up real quick, and then they come down faster, and they're like almost at the bottom by 40, and then they stay low. So like girls grow up faster than boys, and then boys keep growing. It's the same pattern as learning stuff in school. So, there are definitely women who think that I am dazzling, but many fewer than in past years. So when I was at my peak, there was quite a selection. But I am following this curve down. So now that I'm getting past this point, it's like there are still occasionally women who will see me and like what they see, and I like them back. It's not as many, and they're not usually as attractive, but it's like enough, and then it'll slowly get worse until you're pretty much dead in the water at 60. So you said you're pushing 50 now and again. I get straight up propositioned by attractive women in their 30s. Yeah, it will happen. It will happen, especially if you are a particularly attractive older guy. But the average life path that you can expect is a drop off of it. And I also would be willing to bet that if you're getting propositioned by women in their 30s, in your 50s, that you probably had a pretty high peak too. But thank you for commenting on it. Definitely not quite what I said, but good point to go over. Why not? Let's see. What's the end game with women's emancipation and feminism? Oh, you're watching the end game. Complete social collapse and government replacing family. Yeah, you're watching the end game. The people who are pushing this stuff on us, they're very smart, and they know history, and they know what happens when you destabilize nations by messing with the fundamental parts of how it works. And they're laughing at us because America was such a powerful nation, and now we're collapsing because they played a couple of dirty tricks on us. It's like it's just such a powerful tactic to tell people that following tradition is oppressive, and if you want to be free, then you have to like you know have sex with random strangers and do all the drugs you can find and whatever. And then people start, like the young generation starts associating that degenerate behavior with being free. And anyone who tells them not to, they're like, "You're oppressing me." Um, and then you get into a downward cycle. So when you say, I'm sorry, what was the question? What's the end game with women's emancipation and feminism? The end game is exactly the things that I've been describing. The social collapse comes from convincing women that they're victims, and that men are just horrible to them and have been imprisoning them in families and locking them in the basement to do laundry and dishes and provide for them and give them children, and that's evil. But what's good is going to Dubai and smoking pot and being naked on magazines and stuff. Um, so they convince women that things that are bad for them are actually freedom and liberation. And then enough of the women, like it's not all of them. People are so goddamn dumb. People will tell me all the time, it's not all women, and I know someone who isn't like that. But it doesn't need to be all of them. It could be that, I guess I'll do it up here. It could be that before, I'll just go before, in the before times, because that's something that conservatives do. They talk vaguely about the past without specifying a time, and sometimes they're imagining a time that never really existed. But there is definitely some truth to the fact that things were different before. Let's do before, and we'll do now. So if you had the before time and you have now, and before you had like maybe let's say half the people lived good lives. And it doesn't mean that they're saints or anything. It means that they just go to school and go to work and have kids and just do normal productive stuff. And then you have like maybe a quarter of the people were struggling, right? And then you have people who live unusual lives, like they go to war or something like that. And then you have like people who are just living bad lives. They're just gamblers and drinkers and degenerates and that sort. And we'll color that in. The bad will be, like the dangerous behavior will be red. And then the wholesome behavior will be green. And then I guess we could do, what do we have? I used to have these in order of color, and now I just root around for them. So we'll go green, yellow, orange, red. And, this was enough to keep society going. There were these people doing well and these people doing okay, and then these people living chaotically, and then these people living unadvisable lives of just following personal pleasure. And now it might even be, like, I'm going to exaggerate a couple of things. It might even be that more people are living that good life. It might even be that there's a higher percentage of people who are doing that because we have technology and running water and everyone's literate now. But if it's also true that there are more people living that chaos life, it can have effects, like outsized effects on society in general. And it could be that, for example, men from the good people group looking for women from who are acceptable could find one who's here and here and here, but wouldn't want one of them there. And it might very well be that men who are living decent lives looking for women are not able to find them. The math of these things is so sensitive that it's very hard to make sure that you've gotten all of the relevant information and you understand how it works. So it can be only a small percentage of people. Like it can be this wedge to this wedge, that's living that kind of life, and it can have huge outsized effects. Like it have rippling effects on society that affects everybody else. So your question was, what's the end game? The end game is to use that kind of convincing people to live that life, that living that life is freedom, um, taking away everybody's reasons for getting up and going to work and doing stuff, which is working really well. I'm trying to convince men that they really, really need to put work in. And when I say that to them, all that they can hear, well, not all of them, but some of them, all that they can hear is, hey, just go to work for 80 hours a week to pay for, some other woman's kid that she had with another guy, and pay all your taxes to let in all the illegals and everything. I'm going to see if I can find that picture that I did for my last video. I'm sure it's not far off. That's not it. That's it. There we go. So I'm telling them, like, you have to grow up and be this guy. Let me use my camera tricks while I've got them. 2. There we go. Let's go to 3. So I'm saying basically, if you gotta stop being Peter Pan, stop being comfy, useless, and weak. You have to go through the work to become someone who understands things and has strength and knows what you're saying and knows what the truth is. But they don't want to go through this phase because they're carrying everyone's burden and no one respects them, and they're putting in too much work and getting too little out. But it can be hard to communicate that I'm not trying to tell them to do this. I'm trying to say you have to go through this stage without being used by the system. And it can mean learning how to shoot a bow and arrow. It can mean just getting in great physical shape. It can mean just becoming a master of yourself. You don't have to go through the system. You don't have to obey everybody else and be nice in order to grow up. You can do it outside of the system, which I did. The point is self-actualization. That's the name of the game. And you don't need to go through the corporate life to do that. It just means follow what makes sense to you and become a better version of yourself, according to yourself. You don't have to become a better version of you according to other people. So if we could all figure out a way to do that, I think that we might be able to turn this around, but I don't know. A lot of people don't want to listen. And they just want to lay around and play video games. Johnny Punch Clock says, Merry Christmas, buy yourself some art lines. I don't know what art lines are, but I usually read these things after the live is over. Buy art lines. So I'll check it out later. Thank you. Thanks, Johnny Punch Clock. Joe Cool Burr says, when was the demise of critical thinking? Oh, there never was any critical thinking. That's silly, because common sense isn't common anymore. It never was. I'm not sure if I can draw what I think happened to IQ. I know that IQ likely peaked in the late 1800s, where if you have, I don't know why I did that. I guess it's just force of habit. If you have 100, 115, 85, these are the most significant numbers for anyone who doesn't understand IQ. 100 is average, which it's been changing a lot in the last few years. But 100 is average, and then I believe it's like 65% roughly of people are within 15 points up and down. And so this is significantly dim and significantly bright. And then when you go another up to 130, these are people who are like very high achievers. You need a higher IQ to do that. And then if you go up another one, you start getting sort of Elon Musky. It's getting, pretty crazy. So I believe that, what was your question again? when was the demise of critical thinking? Critical thinking, like real, true, rational critical thinking, especially when you're under pressure, is at least this level. You have to be at least here to be able to think rationally. Um, Most people in the world are not here now, even with all the technology and everything that we have. And IQ has been going down. So I think that the average was probably like slightly higher than it was today in the 1800s, I don't know, 80. I don't have data on this. But it's gotten so bad in the last few decades that it's actually, I think, below 85 is the world average now. 2024. And the reason for that is that these smart people were so powerful. They were so good at inventing trains and plumbing and buildings and uh, medicines and such that they enabled lower intelligence people to survive and reproduce much more effectively than they would have been able to without those technologies and without that wealth. So where you formerly would have people of these intelligence levels just kind of dying off because they can't take care of themselves and they can't, figure life out. Now it's very, very easy for them. Now they're all obese. Now they're all laying around guzzling soda all day and getting diabetes. And that kills you too, just not as fast. Like they used to die you'd get a scrape and then they would just die. I'm not sure if this story is true either, but Al Capone, I think he was that guy with like the big lips, wasn't he? And he had like the wrinkled forehead like a caveman. I'm not sure if this is a true story, but I heard that Al Capone was so dumb that he got syphilis and just didn't want to get it treated. And so he just died of a curable disease because he like didn't want to go to the doctor. And that's like how important intelligence is. He was just a criminal. I think it was Al Capone, right? Guy with the vault, and he had kind of like a round face. I'm not that good at faces. That's why I just do the circle people here. I'll do Al Capone. There, he's got a hat. All right. AC. So it's a long answer to your question. When was the demise of critical thinking? There was no demise because it was never popular. In order to be a critical thinker and in order to be at this level for like a long period of time without getting all emotional and resorting to like my father told me or the Bible said, in order to be able to think for yourself, you've got to be able to stay at that level. And people who can stay at that level are not common globally, and they're getting less common even like in America. And it generally requires a pretty high IQ to do that ever, like at least something in this range up. Like, let's say 107. Too far below 115, and people lose the ability to be rational, and they don't know they've lost it. So people will say things like, again, my parents told me, or the Bible told me, or I have a really strong feeling, so I'm right, like down at the earlier types of logic. People who say those things think they're being reasonable. They think it's common sense. Common sense means something different to everyone. So I don't think that there was a demise of critical thinking. Sam says, how does compulsive content use, lady content, I don't think I can say those words on YouTube. How does compulsive use affect relationships and dating? Okay, so that's a very complicated question. I actually had a debate with an adult film star a little while ago, and she is, of course, pro adult film because she makes money doing it and probably enjoys it, and I am anti-adult film. Your question was, how does it affect relationships and dating? If if somebody is, and I'm just going to say men because I know that there are women who have compulsive use as well, but it's mostly men. And the way that it affects men if they use it all the time every day is it desensitizes them. They see crazy stuff. I'm going to draw an old TV with the, like a Simpsons TV with the bunny ears. And the way that it affects them is they see such crazy stuff on it that they start, a part of their brain starts to feel like that's normal. And again, that's why this is all so important. The part of your brain that knows this is not normal, even if you're a very high intelligence person, if you watch too much of this stuff, the part of your brain that knows that it's not normal doesn't make phone calls to these lower parts of your brain. It doesn't communicate with them and say, hey, by the way, it isn't happening in real life and isn't going to happen to you in real life, so you should stop being used to it. These parts of your brain just go, oh, is this how it is now? And they get used to it. And it can affect how you feel about women. It can affect what you expect them to look like and what you expect them to do. It can hurt your mood. It can put you in a bad mood all the time because it makes you feel like you're not getting what you should be. There are men who feel like they're being mistreated by women because the women won't do uncomfortable, humiliating, abnormal things that they see on the computer. And I know women who have told me they've been with men who had these issues. And it sounds really sad. It sounds very sad to like love someone and be with someone, and they spend all their time looking at this crap, and then they're not excited by you anymore, and they're in a bad mood when you're around because they would rather have their ridiculous movies. So it definitely does some harm to be heavily addicted to it. The counter argument that people usually give me, the girl I talked to, the movie star, and other people who might not have any vested interest in it, but who are just interested in the rational scientific aspect, they say that in places that have the adult movies available, there's less of certain types of crime, especially that type of crime. And so that is a pretty valid argument if the existence of the content makes people not be violent because they have, again, told a part of their brain that they've satisfied its needs. So they don't have to go out and attack people, then I guess that's a pretty big benefit. But your question was specifically about compulsive use, and I think that compulsive use can cause the compulsive user to be mainly focused on that and not on the real person available. Which is a very disconnecting thing to happen in a relationship. I mean, even back before I decided that this was no good for me, I can't remember ever getting that bad, but I guess people do. Monarch DC says, when did pacifism become a virtue? I think that pacifism has been considered a virtue by a small percentage of people since as far back as probably Buddha or maybe even before. It's always been a religious principle that, never doing harm, like never harm anything. Even if it's harming you, you should just be so good that you don't do any harm. I think that idea has been around for a very, very, very long time. I'm not even sure if it's more popular now than it used to be. So I would say, kind of a short answer to that one, pacifism became a virtue, probably like as far back as we can remember, like towards the beginning of time. Or at least, if it didn't become a virtue, at least it appeared to be one. I wonder if I could show you guys other stuff. I have my show you things software, and I wonder if I could like show you a window. This is, I hope that some of you at least are reading the description before you start watching. I put in the description that I'm gonna be messing with my software and learning today. So I hope you're not surprised by my somewhat lower energy engagement. Just making sure this stuff can work. My computer is like panting like a dog. It's the fan has been on the whole time. I'm touching it, it's warm. I might need maybe it's not smart to get a laptop. Can anyone advise me on that? I'll go into the regular chat. Is it better for heavy use to get a desktop significantly, or are those days over? Somebody with just a kanji for a name says it feels like we're in the later stages of the rat utopia. Yeah, I don't know if it's the later stages, because I think that things got pretty bad in rat utopia. I think that there was, points where they were neglecting their kids and starving to death because they didn't want to eat and stuff like that. I don't think that it's gotten that bad that we see that happening to normal people every day. I don't know if it will get that bad. Desktop, I'm on desktop. Don't get a laptop unless you're buying top tier. Desktop is a workhorse, get a desktop. Okay, replacement won't change the behavior. Okay. Damn it. Because I already bought a desktop. It was a trick question. I already bought one and all of the USBs broke. I bought $1,000 desktop with it was a super good deal for $1,000. And of course, I should have known that that there was something wrong with it. All of the USB connections stopped working. Like you jiggle them and it goes da-da, 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 da-da. If it's plugged in and you wiggle it, it goes da-da, da-da, connects and disconnects. Upsetting. You can buy a workstation laptop, yeah. He didn't make any rocket, like Musk didn't found Tesla. Desktop, less heat. $1,000, yeah. Maybe I can get it fixed, I don't know. Is consciousness all there is? Someone says, from a certain point of view, yes. So if you're familiar with my quadrants, well, not my quadrants, I'm such a jerk. The Ken Wilber quadrants, the aqua quadrants. If you're familiar with my content about the quadrants, when you say, is consciousness all there is consciousness all there is, what you are doing is you're looking at the world from the upper left perspective. So from a certain point of view, all there is knowing and seeing, and all there is the self looking out at the world. From another perspective, the materialist perspective, all there is stuff. All there is matter and energy. And the role of the observer is not even there. Some people go as far as to say consciousness is an illusion, whatever that means. I don't know how you're going to call consciousness an illusion when you have the consciousness available to formulate that sentence, but debates continue to rage on, ridiculous debates. The problem with a PC laptop is Intel processor run too hot. When's the next video coming out? Before the end of the year, hopefully in the next 3 or 4 days. I'm working on it right now. I put a ton of work into it the last few days. Here is one of the drawings from it. It's about a girl, going overboard saying that guys are so mean and everything when it really isn't true. And it's like you're making mistakes in your relationships. It's not just guys doing bad things to you. And I drew this map here that I have to make look good, and I'm going to explain to her how things used to be, and here's how things are now, and here's the bad way of doing it and the good way of doing it, and it's very difficult. You have to make difficult choices because we no longer have these social restrictions stopping you from making bad choices. So now you have to not make your own bad choices, and no one wants to do that. They just want everybody to read their minds and make them happy. So that video is going to be like, it's looking like it could be 15, 20 minutes, something like that. Videos coming soon. Women are becoming monsters. Yeah, some of them. Yep. Someone asked me favorite books this year. I have been reading an embarrassingly small amount since COVID. I think I've read 2 books since COVID. And, since I left the place I lived during COVID, I'm not sure if I read while I was there. But I read, one of them was, and I think that they're both on my recommendation list, on my link tree. One of them was King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, and the other one was something about, I think it was called The Tipping Point. I'm not sure if I put The Tipping Point on my list. King, Warrior. Somebody asked me, who was it? Why am I not active on TikTok? It just became a big drain for me. Like the amount of here's the book, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. The amount of money that I get from TikTok, the amount of attention that I get from TikTok, I'll just do the home math girl to represent me. That stuff was not enough anymore to justify the amount of energy that it took me to make videos for TikTok. It's its own whole platform, and you have to kind of be on it every day. You have to be keeping up with the culture. You have to respond to people. You have to make... One of the big things that they did that was kind of like the reason that I quit was they made Stitches not pay any money anymore. And I think that when I was making money on TikTok, I think I probably made 90% of it through Stitches. That was really how I started my channel. There would be some girl, going, no, men need to buy me everything, and I've never made a mistake, right? Like this, manners, cruelty, and then I would respond to it, and people would love the response and the explanation, and then they just sort of just said, we're not paying for those anymore. So now I have to go back and learn other ways of interacting with TikTok, because I cannot spend as much time on TikTok that I do on YouTube. When I put time into YouTube, it pays off. When I put time into TikTok, it's like the graph of how much effort you put in to how much reward you get for YouTube is like, it's like this, and it can be more or less sometimes, but it's like pretty consistent. For TikTok, the amount of effort that you put in, I guess I should have done it the other way around. Effort will be this way, and reward will be this way. The amount of effort that you put in, the rewards go like all over the place. It's very inconsistent. And I found that I was spending a lot of time on TikTok, and like a whole week would go to waste. And another thing about it is that they're one of the most sensitive platforms. They will demonetize you and give you strikes against your account for literally nothing. One time there was, one of these videos of a girl being mouthy, and the girl happened to be Indian, like East Indian, and they demonetized the video for racism. I didn't mention anything about her race. It just was an Indian girl. I never used any words for her. I never pointed out that she was from a different place. It was just an Indian girl saying something bad and me correcting it, and they said banned for racism. TikTok sucks. Sorry. It's very hard to make something good out of it, but YouTube is great. Let's see if there are any more paid ones. Oh, there are. Pretty Boy Jeremy says, hey, Homath, love the content. Platonic female friend sees me as a brother, however, super envious when I flirt with new girls. Why? Easy answer, and I've given this answer a bunch of times before. It's because, pay attention to my charts. You should look at them. It's because girls get two things from you. Women get two things from men. One of them is the attraction, and this is the main interest that you have in women. You think they're pretty and you like them. That's the first, that's why you have interest in girls. But girls have interest in guys for two reasons. One of them is the same one, and then one of them is security. She can get time from you and support and commitment and emotional bonding, and she can get lifestyle changes, or she can make you change for her, so she can have you like a pet. Girls get value from that, even if they don't want any of this from you at all. That puts you in the friend zone. We don't do that. When we like a girl, it's just like, how much of this do I have for her? And then how much do I like her personality? You add that together. That's the body and the personality. And then once we know how much we like that, we look at her past and we go, am I going to subtract points for that? And then the tiny little things. Girls have an entirely different formula. So you have lots of this and none of this. That's why. She just doesn't think of you like that. So if you want to change that, you have to work on these things. You might have to get fit or dress different. You might have to become good at things. You have to be impressive. That's the key word for this. To get a higher bad boy score, you have to, number one, look as good as you can, and then number two, be impressive. Be good at things that are impressive to her. And if you do that and she still doesn't like you, then forget about her. Move on. Oh, yeah. So to answer your question a little bit more directly, she gets jealous when you flirt with new girls because she gets this value from you. If another girl comes by, that girl's going to take it away from her. So that's why I gave you that whole long explanation, because she's getting this from you, doesn't want this, but she still doesn't want to lose this. If another girl comes by, she's going to take away your free, gimmies, attention and all that. So greedy of her. They do that a lot. That happened to me when I was young too. There was a girl I liked, and I spent 3 or 4 months trying to get her to like me, and then I stopped, and then I got a girlfriend, and she got really mad. AG Stig 03 says, why is astrology valuable? Astrology, research, Rex. I don't know if astrology has any merit to it at all. I don't know that. I definitely don't know of any such thing as astrology research. I don't think that there's ever been any kind of scientific validation of any astrological principle. I just kind of think, yeah, and I went over this in a video a long time ago. I just think it's kind of cool that our testosterone goes up and down with the sun. So that's one day, that's one day, that's one day. Our cycles go with the sun. And women have hormone cycles that go with the moon. So you've got your 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Their cycles go about every 28 days. They have a hormone cycles that go about every 28 days. And then the Earth, I think that it's pretty significant that it takes about one trip around the sun to meet someone, and for a man and woman to meet and like each other and get pregnant and have a child. It takes about 1 year to do that. So I think that it's just kind of interesting that there are some things about our, biology and psychology that do go in tune with celestial bodies. But I don't know if that means that, like, having Mars in your chart is going to make you, I don't know, whatever that is, aggressive, I guess. Um, my I know a bunch of things about astrology, but when I say I know things about them, it doesn't mean I believe them. I just know what people believe about it. So I don't have any recommendations, I'm afraid. Riley S says, "Does a man need to focus on attraction if a woman's attractive, high value primary goal is security, which you can provide?" Well, yeah, unless you want her to be unfulfilled. Because let's go back to zones again. Women want both of these things. They don't. They're not, like, women generally are not going to meet a guy like the conversation I just had with the last guy. They're not going to marry you because you're in the friend zone and just be happy with it, because then they're not getting any satisfaction and stimulation. They're like, I'm not attracted to my husband at all, and I feel very unfulfilled by that. Like, imagine how you would feel if you were married to a girl that you weren't attracted to at all. Would you really be able to say, well, at least I have company? No, you would be like, why can't I have someone that's pretty and makes me feel good? They are the same way. So if you are providing security, if you're giving her investment and making her look good and not cheating on her and stuff, and you have all the stuff that she likes, if you're giving her security, but none of this, she's still going to want this. So she's going to go looking somewhere else, or at least there's a very high chance that she will. Um, if you want her to like you and be attracted to you, you need to have a high score here. And if you want her to uh, stay with you and choose you and, play the game correctly with you, then you need to have stuff here. It's like, this is how you get her to want you, and then this is how you get her to feel safe and taken care of so that she doesn't run away. So, yeah, this is very important. You can never really throw that out unless you can find a woman who doesn't care whether or not she gets any like satisfaction from your level of attractiveness, which is probably just not going to happen. Let's be honest. Let's see. I don't expect any of you to trust me. You guys are having a whole conversation in the chat there. Rubicon Ron says, how much connection is there between IQ and Aquil? Is there a min-max for IQ? There kind of is, and I have been meaning to make the video on that. I would guess, if I were to just guess, I would say that, let me just get this out of the way. I would say that the ceilings for these levels, and when I say the ceilings for these levels, I mean, like, on average, like being at that level at every day. I would say that up here you probably cannot pass this line into level 6 unless you are, God, I would say probably like at least something between 100 and 110, probably like 108 is the lowest, maybe more like 110. I'll say 110, probably. And then at level 5, I would probably say something more like 105. And up here, maybe, I don't know, 98. I'm just sort of guessing. If someone who can never leave this level is probably going to be in the 80s, maybe something like 86. And someone who can never leave this level is going to be definitely low, like 75. And someone who can never leave this is just going to be a completely unworkable person who probably only has like 7 words that they know. So I would guess, I'm just guessing that those are probably like the minimum requirements to get there. And it doesn't mean that you will get there. Like, you can be a very intelligent person. I know people who definitely are higher IQ who are still at these levels. And it's because they're not taking their intelligence and refining it. When I say thinking about thinking, you have to take your raw IQ and really reconsider yourself and reconsider the world around you. And it's easier to jump up the levels. The smarter you are, the easier it is to jump up the levels. But for sure, if your IQ is below average, you're not getting up here. For sure. I can say that for certain. So I would say definitely there's a connection between the levels in IQ. I can't articulate it any more clearly than that at the moment. Let's see. Rubicon Ron, how much connection? Oh, that was the one I just read. Monarch DC says, you skipped my last chat. Also, Merry Christmas. Let me go back and find it. Monarch DC. When did pacifism become a virtue? Is that your last one? I'm talking in terms of people teaching people not to stand. Oh, that was the one I missed. I'm talking in terms of teaching people not to stand up for themselves, particularly in school. So you're saying pacifism is a virtue, like in the sense of like zero tolerance bullying policies, like nobody can fight it out? I think that's what you mean. And what was your question? Something about pacifism. When did pacifism become a virtue? So if you're asking when that kind of zero tolerance thing happened, I would say that it began, I think, in the 90s in a visible way. I think, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, you had the whole trope about the guy with the letter jacket, stuffing the nerd in the locker. Whatever, I don't know what letters they put on jackets. TR. The Tacoma Raptors. Tacoma Raptors. I can't draw the whole guy that fast. But, the guy with the sport jacket shoving the kid in the locker. You had all that stuff that was very common. It was just like what people accepted as the way of life. Somewhere in the 90s, public schools started talking about this idea that that children need to be really intensely monitored. That it used to just be that you had a teacher, make her a lady, at the head of the class, and she would teach you, math and stuff, and 1 + 1, and then all of the students would kind of go out for recess into the world and be on their own, and there would be like a division between the job that the teacher has to teach you and what you are doing socially. And at some point, which I believe was in the 90s, at some point they started telling teachers that, like, you have to monitor the moral development of these kids and run around and tell them how to solve their problems, and, oh, you can't fight, and you're going to get put in detention for this and that, and you can't say these words. And it's this very nanny state kind of, you can't. And that's what became cancel culture eventually. You can't say the word, you can't. That stuff has been around for, it's been around for a while. Like, it definitely did some harm to me when I was in school. I probably just shouldn't have listened and should have just done whatever I wanted. But when I was young, that didn't make any sense. The idea of doing what makes sense to me, even though authority said not to, that didn't make any sense to me until I was like 12 or 13, somewhere around there. So anything that happened before then, it was just like, the teacher said that's bad, so we don't do it. And I probably got messed up a little bit from listening to idiots, you know? So obviously says, how do I get attraction points without it feeling like playing pretend? Do you mean, when you say how do you get attraction points, I'm going to assume that what you mean is how do you personally move yourself up this scale for women in general? And when you say how do you get it without it feeling like playing pretend, I mean, it's all written right here. You have to improve these things about yourself. Like, what kind of girl are you looking for? If you're looking for a specific one, you have to know what kind of guys she's into and then make yourself look like that. This works surprisingly well. Guys will say things like you just did, like, oh, I don't want it to feel like playing pretend. But if a girl says, I like guys who wear vests and bow ties, and then you put on a vest and a bow tie, there's if the rest of you passes her test and you dress the way that she wants, there's a chance that she's just going to go, oh my God, I love that. And then she said what she wanted and then you did it and it worked. Sometimes that works, probably more often than you would think. So when you say feeling like playing pretend, you just have to become these things. Like, get good at something, get power over people, run a business, you know, be able to hire and fire people, be important to people. When you say without it feeling like playing pretend, my question for you is kind of like, why does it feel like pretend to you now? What are you doing that is pretend? I'm not pretending with any of the stuff that I do. I just like lift weights and I take care of myself very simply. And when I'm going out to be seen by people, I put on things that make me look interesting and put together. And over here, you know, I have making my money. I have my channel. I know how to have a conversation. I know how to get people to have respect for me right away by saying insightful things and being able to solve problems quickly. You just have to grow yourself in all those ways. I know it's very vague, but I'm trying to put all the clues that I possibly can in there. You just have to get better at stuff and look better and have more to offer. And then it won't be pretend because you'll have it. It's kind of a, I don't know, very vague question, how you do it without it being pretend. Just do it for real. That's kind of the only answer I can give you. It's like, if you don't want it to be pretend, then don't pretend. Just do it. ONI Glitch says, yo, Homath, what advice would you give for men who grew up more on the more passive, non-confrontational side to be more assertive? Oh, know what you want, and then don't let people tell you not to do it, or that it doesn't belong to you, or that you should. It starts with knowing what you want. This is why I made all the charts. They come in handy. They're very useful. I wish I could flip through them faster. It's always awkward when there's a moment where it's like, where's the one? Okay. All right. What was the question? What would you give someone who grew up more on the passive side? Okay, so you see the desires section on the chart, right? You have to know what it is that you want in life. What way do you want to live? Who do you want to spend your time with? What do you want to come from your actions, right? And then go get them. Think about how you have to do that. Where are you going to go? Number one, know what you want. Number two, know where you would go to get it. Like, there are some things that I want in my life that I know I want them, and I don't want to want them, but I just kind of can't get rid of wishing that I was living that way, that I can't have where I am. So I know that in order to pursue those desires, I have to move to a whole different place. So figure out what it is that you want to happen to you and what you want to do, and then figure out where you'd have to go to make that happen. And then you gotta, all this stuff, think about what you're gonna do in order to, what you're gonna look like, how you're gonna appear to others, and what actions you're gonna take, and those things are gonna go into your environment and give you a result. And then that result is going to reinform your mind so that you can try again. When you say that you grew up on the more passive non-confrontational side, what you're doing is, if you know what you want, which most people don't, but let's assume that you do. If you know what you want and you know how you would get it, like where you would go to get it, you probably are experiencing something in here. You probably need to adjust your mentality. You're probably experiencing something in here that's saying, well, I'm not the kind of person that, it could be ego identity. I'm not the sort of person who does that. I couldn't, but I just, it's not really. Or maybe you believe something that's not accurate. Oh, that's way too hard, and no one ever is actually, or maybe it's wrong to do that. You probably are bumping up into something in there that's preventing you from even trying. Um, and when you say that you grew up more on the passive non confrontational side, when you go try to get something in life and what you get back is a conflict, then win the conflict. Like, there's no way to make things happen if every time you know what you want and make an attempt at it, if you get a conflict and you give up right there, then your feedback that you're getting is, I'm not good at standing up for what I want. And you can just stop right there, or you can go to the adjust your mentality and go, well, why am I not good at that? Is it something that I think about myself? Is it the way that I feel? Is it a belief about the world? Do I believe that it's wrong to stand up for what I want? You got to tweak yourself to be able to believe that you deserve to go for what you want. And you got to know the difference between a fight that you should fight and one that you should abandon. But it sounds to me like you're just kind of letting people tell you what to do, and you got to stop doing that. And that's in here. This is where most of the work is done. Most of the work of self-maximizing is done by using your mind to work on your mind. That's probably what you got to do. I'm so glad I made all these charts now. They really do come in handy. Let's see. Fluke sent me $2. Cool, thanks, Fluke. Mark L says, Mom wants help buying the house. Life here pulls from the norm. What? Freedom corrupts. Is this a poem? At 28 M, I could marry in the Middle East, but Mom plans to retire in the house. With rising costs, is this right? Let me just go through this real quick. This might be one of those impossible to read ones. Mom wants help buying the house. Life here pulls from the norm. Freedom corrupts. No, I'm not getting anything from that. Life here pulls from the norm. Freedom corrupts. At 28 male, I could marry in the Middle East, but Mom plans to retire in the house. With rising costs, in this right? I don't know what you're asking is right. Are you saying that you could go to the Middle East to find a wife, but your mom needs you not to because of, for some reason, the house? Mom wants help buying the house? Which house? I can't understand your question. I'm sorry, Mark. If you're asking whether it's better to go live your own life or help your mom, I think that the answer is statistically more likely to be go live your own life. You don't want to live for your parents. They're supposed to be living for you. They're supposed to be, they went through all the work of raising you and giving birth to you and everything so that you could continue, not so that you could come back and take care of them while they get old. At least I hope not. But I don't know your situation, and your question was a little chunky. Tom says, why do so many men care about female body count and larger numbers seen as lowering female value, but the same standard is not applied equally in reverse? Oh, Tom, this question is so old and has been answered so many times. There's lock and key theory. There's just so many different ways of looking at it. I would encourage you to just go watch some videos about that. Like, I have videos about it. It's a very heavy topic of conversation. But basically, a man can get many, many, many women pregnant all at once, many at a time, but a woman can only hold one or maybe two, and very rarely more at a time. So there's a very hard limit on the reproductive capacity of women, and on men there's no limit. You could get 1 million women pregnant per day if they collected samples and distributed them. So this is very valuable. It's very, very high value, a woman's fertility, and it's very, very low value, a male's fertility. And so when a woman does something like go to bed with a lot of people, what it means is that you have to wonder, if she has a baby, is it going to be yours? Because is she going to be going back to her old habits of going to bed with a bunch of different guys, and then this didn't come from you and it came from someone else? So it's an indicator, like your past behavior is an indicator of your future behavior. And so if she used to sleep around, then it's very likely that she will continue to sleep around under certain circumstances. And it's just a very bad idea to marry a woman who's going to have someone else's kid. That's like you're dying to help your enemies. I could talk about this issue forever, but it's just such an old question. I'm sure everyone else listening is very bored of it. Fluke says, getting fit and dressing up works wonders for me. Yeah, it really, really does. I have not dressed decently in like, I think it's been like 6 or 7 months. I have been just sitting at home and working. I wonder if I've gotten significantly older, if I go out looking the way I did before, if I'm just going to look goofy. Monarch DC says, what is your policy on implicit apologies over explicit? Example, expensive Christmas gift. I don't have a policy. It's interesting that you would say that. I'm a very verbal person, and if somebody did something to me that I didn't appreciate, this is Al Capone for anyone who wasn't here for that. If somebody did something to me that I didn't appreciate, I really, really need that person to use their words to say, I recognize what I did, and I know why not to do it again. So if someone does something that is bad for me and then they buy me a car, I'm not going to go, oh, okay, well, you can just do the same bad thing to me again then. The verbal understanding, like demonstration that they understand, is super important to me. I am not sure if I would recommend that for everybody. I don't know if that's something everyone should expect, but it's what I expect. I don't know, somebody with a bad YouTube name. Some of you just have names that I don't want to read. Says, if you had a couple of million, no debt, family is absolved of you. What does it mean for family to be absolved of you? You mean like there's no way to have one, or there's no reason to have one? Would you remain in the West or move to Southeast Asia for a better culture life? I would stay in the West. I'm not interested personally in going to Southeast Asia or South America or anywhere else. Maybe Eastern Europe, maybe, but also probably not. I'm really just only interested in Western and in particular American culture. Because what we're doing in the United States is really of great consequence. I think that people forget that a lot. I think that people, it's this goddamn thing again. It's this level again. People are so, I don't know, befuddled, bamboozled by it, that the idea that the United States is the greatest country that has ever existed, people will go, oh, you Americans just think they're the center of the world. Well, we invented cars and trains and airplanes and electricity and like the transistor and wireless communications and the internet, and like the world was a very different place before and after America. and an enormous amount of the stuff that changed the world came from this country. And it has something to do with the people who moved here from Europe, and it has something to do with the laws that they wrote to free themselves from being, held down by oppressive monarchies and such. Um, and what we're doing here, like, we're losing it pretty quickly. They're shutting it down pretty quickly, but that doesn't mean that there's no chance to save it. And that's the only thing that has ever made any sense to me. The idea that we would have all of that come from America and then they would start taking it away, and I would go, oh, well, I'm just going to go to Thailand and marry like a 22-year-old girl who doesn't speak my language and is only pretending me to like me because I'm a billionaire in Thai money. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't want to do that. Because what's life about then? I don't understand it. Like, what's life about? It's very hard for me to imagine feeling like my life is just about, like, if there's me and then there's my Southeast Asian wife. Let's make her hair black. And then what, like 2 kids, maybe? I know you said family, absolved, whatever that means. And then, like, for that to be the only thing that's important to me, when there's just like huge, there's the surrounding family and the neighborhood and the the global international, for me to not think about any of those things and not have my values embedded in where I am in relation to the wider scope of things, it doesn't make any sense to me. People will say that to me from time to time, like, you ever think about just going and living on an island to relax? I'm not going to relax on an island. I'm going to be constantly like gripping my knuckles and not sleeping, thinking about what's happening to the world that I come from. I don't know really how to make sense of day-to-day actions without embedding them in like what I do goes out into the culture and the society I'm from, which then returns me my quality of life. Participating in that is what makes sense to me, not running away from it to sip Mai Tais. Let's see. Playboy Chasey says, "Do you believe the sixth sense exists?" No. There are actually more senses than the 5. So there's seeing and hearing, and there's a taste and smell and touch. It's a bad hand, but whatever. We know of like the 5 senses, but you also you have a lot of other ways of perceiving the world, like the bacteria in your stomach send messages to your brain. The way that your guts are feeling influences your mood. If you close your eyes and stand on one foot, your body kind of knows when you're off balance. You can still touch your nose if your eyes are closed. You know where your body is. That's another sense. I think they call that I can't remember what they call that. I can't remember the word for it now. But there's a bunch of other senses. There's like a sense of balance, and there's a sense of hot and cold and pressure, and there's a sense of like just your bodily wellness. So there's a lot of ways that you perceive information. But when people say the 6th sense, what they mean is all of those things that I don't know about. So there's let's do the brain again. Um, it's like if this is the part of your brain that is conscious and knows about stuff, and it's saying the sixth sense, what it's talking about is all of the real, actual senses that are going on in the lower parts of the brain. You're perceiving stuff, but you don't know that you're perceiving it. People say, like, oh, it's women's intuition. No, it's actually a sensation that you're having that you don't know that you're having. You're feeling something that's informing your decisions, but you can't articulate it because it's so subtle. So no, there's no. I don't think that there is anyway. There's always people who talk about psychic spies, like people who get trained to be psychic and they see into rooms very far away. Like if this teacher is just psychic, I'll just give her like X-Man brain power waves. There are all these stories from the CIA or whatever research about how they can just see far away. They can see like the teacher's just looking at recess and can see a kid doing something bad. He's got a knife in his jacket. I hope I don't get banned for drawing like a butter knife on YouTube. A stick butter knife. So they say that there are people who can do that. There are people who can like remotely see things happening. I'm not sure if I believe it. And if it is true, I don't know why we don't have people training each other to do it. It seems like if that kind of a thing was real and there was any kind of information from anybody who could do it, that they would make a killing training other people to do it. I would pay for it. I'd pay thousands of dollars for that. If someone could say, oh, here's the kind of food you need to eat and here's your sleep schedule, and then you stand on one foot and say these 3 words backwards, like Rumpelstiltskin or whatever, the guy that you say his name backwards and he dies. I can't remember who that was. But if someone could teach me how to see stuff remotely, I'd pay for it. That would be a super useful skill. It would make all my money back. So I don't know. There's not a lot of reason to believe that specific type of like that sixth sense is real. I think that anytime people say that they had a psychic intuition or a sixth sense, they're feeling regular physiological senses that they're not aware of. I think that's much more likely to be true. How many people are here? 655 on Christmas Eve. Kristen Goodnight says, hey, level 7 here on the Aquil. Good. What should my focus be? I know I can look at your chart, but I understand better when you explain. Well, what your focus should be, if you are at that level, especially if you're new to it, your focus should be being realistic about what your skills and qualities are. You should be realistic about it. Like, don't do that thing that people have been doing for decades where they go, you can be anything you want. You should know what you're good at, and you should know how it fits into the world around you. At level 7, the ego need is self-actualization. Down here it's just getting physical stuff and then being around people that make you safe. Up here it's who am I and what can I do, which is what you learn at level 6. You do a lot of introspecting here. At level 7 you go, okay, I know who I am and what I'm like now. And at level 7 you go, how do I plug that into the world around me for the most reciprocal effect, like this same thing that I did here, where you do something into the world and then that makes the world better and it rewards you in return. I like to think that the work that I do, making videos and helping people come to realizations and live better lives, I like to think that it improves the quality of enough people's lives that they can go out and make contributions to the physical world that then come back to me in the form of like somebody somewhere was more able to make this bag of chips that I'm eating or to generate the electricity that's running my computer. Somebody somewhere benefited from what I did. I added something to the world, which is understanding. People like to watch my content because it helps them make decisions, and maybe helping them make decisions made them more efficient at what they do, made them happier, healthier, more willing to work, getting more done in a day because they get it now and have some more hope. And they went out and added more of more productivity, whatever it is that they do. Maybe they drive a truck or maybe they teach kids or whatever. And after a long enough time, it comes back to you. You should think about where you are in that cycle and what is it that you're going to be adding, and how do you want to get stuff back? How do you best add value? I had a lot of answers to that question, and then the world told me no, and not because I wasn't good at it or anything, but just no. Oh no. Did I cut out? I'm going to go to the... It looks like I cut out. Did I cut out? I'm going to put it in the chat. Oh, it came back. Okay. It came back on. Sorry, my screen did a spinny thing. All right, let's see what else I can do. What other questions do we have? Oh, we got a lot of them. You guys are busy tonight. Sovereign fish. I'm going to try and do these a little quickly. I'll pay more attention to the highly paid ones. That's how it's supposed to go anyway. Sovereign fish says, how will society react when they wake up to the fact that bachelors are thriving and refusing to contribute to society? I don't know. Not working, not marrying single moms. Will we see a bachelor tax? There already is a bachelor tax, my friend. The idea, if anyone doesn't know about the bachelor tax, it's this idea that in ancient Rome, or I guess less ancient Rome, in the Roman Empire, things got so bad that men refused to get married, and so the government said, well, we're just going to take your money directly. Then it looked a lot like that drawing that I point to all the time, the money one. So the government says, if you're not going to get married and take care of these women directly, we're just going to tax you, and we'll pay for the women with the tax. We're already doing that, man. I pay a lot more, a much higher percentage than they ever did. Here's this guy, the struggler. I would be willing to bet that we're paying more in taxes than the Romans did. And it goes, when we give our money to the government, they give it sometimes directly to women in the form of services, and sometimes they provide incentives and subsidies, and there are certain rules that allow some corporations to influence the stock value of other corporations unless they have they have an ESG score or whatever. And you have to hire certain numbers of different types of people and whatnot. And the government is applying pressure on corporations to take the work that men do and just give it to other people. That's the bachelor tax. It's already here and it's already really, really bad. So you're asking, oh, how's the world going to react when they find out that men are checking out? Well, they're already like, well, you can't have anything anymore. We're just going to give it directly to them. That's been going on for a while. I still need to make a list of all of these things, all of the things that the government does, like Title IX and exactly how it moves value from here to here, and ESG and DEI and exactly how it moves value from men who pay in taxes, that the government uses it to then provide this. I need to make a whole chart of that. Like, I know that there's so many of those things happening that we're all suffering really badly. But when people ask me what are they specifically, I kind of just go, look, I know they're there. I know they're real. I just don't remember all of them and have a list of them. So I've got to I'm going to win a lot more arguments after I make that list. But yeah, it's already here. Baris Parlan says, your content should be translated. I'm up for Turkish. I had a nightmare with translating before. Somebody wanted to translate it into Spanish, and I cut them a deal, and I told them, if you can do the translation, I'll give you this %. And they kept asking me for, they basically asked me for $90,000 up front to translate the content. And I went, go to hell. They wanted like $300 a video. I had 300 videos. It's like, you can you do one? Can you make one video and publish it and see if it makes any money? And then if it does, I'll give you a lot of it. And it was a nightmare. The whole translating thing, I'm not going to get to it anytime soon. I put a lot of work into it already and it went nowhere. If somebody knows how to do it, feel free to contact me. I've got my, oh, that's right. That was the one that's done. Feel free to contact me at linktree.ee/HOE_MATH. If you know how to get translations done without charging me money. But I'm not gonna like get an employee to translate and then find out that they can't even do it. Fluke says, postmodern neo-Marxist globalists want you to hate USA. Yeah, they sure do. Riley S. says, have you considered making videos about friendship? I've noticed that your charts and drawings don't always apply to friends. This is something that I addressed a while ago in a video called, I think it's called Really Good and Really Smart. I think that I addressed that in that video. Burka Minkil says, hey HM, I get a lot of choosing signals from women like staring and double checking, but they are just strangers that I see on the street or the gym most of the time. Should I approach, and if so, how? If you are not comfortable doing a big straight up approach like, hello, I noticed that you looked at me twice. Does that indicate interest? If you're not if you're not good at that, you can escalate very slightly. So if you see a girl do that thing where she just looks at you just really quick, and then after a minute she just looks at you really quick again, you can just sort of do that thing back where you just look at her for a while and wait for her to respond. And then when she sees you doing this, she might like escalate by smiling back. Like if she just looked at you a couple times and didn't smile, and then you look at her and you go, you're basically what you're doing is you're in a very, very subtle way, without going right up to her and going, hello, let's be married soon. You very subtly indicate to her, yes, I saw you looking, and now I'm looking back. It was just very subtle body language. All you're doing is looking at her. If she then gives you a positive signal, then you can kind of do a bird test and you can say, hey, your shoes or whatever, right? Those are cool. Or like the shirt that you're wearing. It's like a heavy metal tank top. Oh, I love that band, right? Sword. You don't want to just say, I like the way you look and am approaching you. You do the bird test. Again, the video is called Bird Test. So if you're not comfortable enough noticing the little and then going straight for the approach, what you do is you turn up the amount that you're connected little bit by little bit. If you see her looking, you look back, and then she will notice out of the corner of her eye that you noticed her noticing, and then it's up to her to show that she's noticing you noticing her noticing. And then at that point, you make a joke or do whatever. You just do some silly thing like I don't know, just push your pen on the floor while you're making eye contact with her, and then she laughs. There was one time that I did pretty well with, there was a girl who was, I didn't know her. She was like in the same group as me, but weren't really communicating or connected or friends or anything. Didn't know each other. And there was one point where she was just sort of looking at me a bit more than usual, and I don't know why. I'm just goofy sometimes. I did like a military salute to her in the bar with my arms straight down, and I just stood up really rigid, and I just went, huh! And she thought that was great. And then we talked for a while after that. So just turn up the volume on the communication if you don't know how to approach. And what's great about that is that there's plausible deniability. So if she's looking and you're looking and you notice and you do something silly, then it can just be like, oh, I'm a goofy guy. It's not that I was necessarily trying to date you. So if it goes well, then good. And if it doesn't go well, then you didn't mean it. It's plausible deniability. Doctor says, Doctor with a K. Hi, HM. I'm thinking of moving from California to the United States. That's funny. I used to make that joke too. I'm thinking of moving from CA to the US to work in software design and art. Considering New York City, who would you say this city would fit and why? Libtards. People who don't like themselves and care about safety. New York City is extremely expensive, and everybody that you meet there is going to be primarily concerned with saying all of the cool things all the time. They are only interested in there are several major kinds of New Yorkers, but there's only going to be two that you are interacting with, considering what I know about you. And one of them is going to be the money New Yorkers. And those are going to be the ones that say, oh, my clothes and my car and my apartment and my investments and my money, money, money. And then the other kind are going to be the ones who are the social New Yorkers. And oh, he doesn't believe the right thing. He didn't give enough money to the cause, and he didn't put enough George Floyd posters on his wall. And those are the two kinds of people that you're going to meet there. There's not a lot of like genuine, I don't know what's the word that I want to use, but there's not a lot of people in New York who are like, I started this idea without being able to finish it. It's not that they're all bad people. It's not that they're all dumb. They're definitely smarter than average. It's that they're in New York because they want to be on that wave. They want to be catching that wave of like power and money and fame, and they want to be where it's at and everything like that. And they value that more than like maybe the truth. You know? They value that more than maybe doing what they know they should. And you'll see a lot of that there. So if you're gonna go from, I think you probably mean Canada to the U.S. to work in software design and art, who would you say the city would fit? If you are looking to meet people who are trying super hard to look cool while they don't look like they're trying to look cool, then New York or any of the cities are for you. If you want to meet people who are a little bit more down to earth and realistic about what life is about, you go for the suburbs, and not the suburbs of New York either, because it's like a 2-hour drive into the city from New York. Like if you've got Manhattan here, and then Brooklyn and Queens and Staten Island. And Manhattan goes like this, in the Bronx. First of all, this is New Jersey, which I don't know. I don't think I ever met anyone from New Jersey when I lived in New York. I guess it must be just more difficult to get over from New Jersey to New York than it is to just be in New York. I don't know. I don't know why I never met anyone from there, because it's right there. I think it's Hoboken or something. I can't remember. I don't even remember the name of the city that borders New York. For some reason, New Yorkers find it very unimportant. But in order to get here below 14th Street, which is where everything was going on when I was there, that and Williamsburg. Williamsburg is like over here. That's the hipster area. In order to get there from outside of it, you're driving you're going to be driving at least an hour, or you could drive 15 minutes and get on a train that takes an hour in order to get in from outside the city. So like if you want to live in the city, like it's this is all city and this is all city, and it's very, very dense and it's hard to travel. So if you're living in New York, you're going to be living in an unescapable concrete jungle. You're going to be really stuck in it, and you better love it. And you better love people who love money and looking cool and being hipsters. Mark L. says, you mentioned that tradition is dead and society keeps pulling into degeneracy. What do you think about going back to the home country to marry a girl from there and live there? Or is it pointless? What's your home country? That question is very sensitive to the nature of the country that you are asking about, because, you know, the United States is not the only place experiencing social difficulties right now. Depends what country you came from. If you know of a place that's got, you know, that's being less dragged down into this mud, then go for it. But like earlier, someone asked me about Southeast Asia. That's sort of where we are. Like if you're in America and you don't like how America's going, the first thing that some people think is Southeast Asia. So that should give you a clue about that. Like no one ever says to me, hey, if you don't like America, why don't you go to Germany or England? They go Southeast Asia because they know that this stuff is spread everywhere. I'm going to go soon, and the questions are drying up anyway, so that's perfect. So I'm going to get ready to go. Oh, I never did that thing where I saw if I could show you guys a picture. I should do that test while I'm here, and then I'll answer a couple questions and I'll leave. Let's go get the graphics. Click, 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 click. Okay. Is this going to open? Open on the wrong screen. I don't know how to make things open on the proper screen. Okay. I am going to... I can't see it. I need more screens, because now I have a screen where I'm monitoring myself and a screen that I'm going to show you to see if you can see it. And then I need a third screen to be able to see the YouTube. It's too many screens. It's entirely too many screens. Okay, I'm going to see what happens when I do this. Can you guys see this? Did I have any sensitive information there? No, I don't think so. Da-da-da-da. Yeah, that should be fine. Right, screen number 1, click. So if I do that, does that mean that you can see, because now I can't keep the screen on. There we go, because then I have to go check it over here. Thanks for bearing with me. We're at the end of the thing anyway. It does look like it works. It looks like it is working. I can see it from a few seconds ago. Great. Okay, a couple more questions. God bless Homath. God bless chat. God with us. God for us. Cool. Yeah, God should be with us. We need it. Thank you, Hook. And then Mark L. again says, next question is it smarter to help my mom pay off her house? Oh, I remember you, yeah. Is it smarter to help my mom pay off her house and just live here? It feels like I'll end up taking care of her regardless. Am I just delaying the inevitable by not helping now? My answer to this question is very similar to the last question that you asked. It really is up to you what you do with these things. Like, you don't have to live the life that others want you to live. If your relationship with your mother is such that you are going to have to take care of her when she gets old, and you know that, and you accept the role, then it might be a bad idea to entirely leave the country and marry somebody else who's not from the country. That sounds pretty tough. The questions that you're asking are very difficult for me to answer because I don't know your priorities. I can't tell you what your priorities are. So when you say, is it smarter to help my mom pay off her house and just live here? Smarter for what purpose? Like, it sounds like it might save you money. It sounds like it's going to be good for helping your mom or living with your mom. It feels like I'll just end up taking care of her regardless. Well, if that's what you think is going to happen and you'll be moving back anyway, then do you think that that will destroy whatever life you build over there? Um, you know, these are complex questions. We live in complex times. It used to be just assumed that you stay close to your family and you don't move out until you get married. And sometimes people get married and still not move out. You just have like just a room in the family house. Like you got a big house with like 2 floors, and you've got like bedrooms, and then you would be living in this one, and you'd meet a girl, and you'd marry her, and she would just move into your childhood bedroom. Like people lived in ways like that in times past. Um, and now we have this thing where it's like one house per person, and you have TikToks like that woman who wanted to live next door to her husband. We should have separate houses so that we can just be apart when we need to be apart. People are spoiled. They've got a lot of material need concerns. You just need to know where yours are. I can't answer these questions for you without knowing what your choices are. Like, I know what my choices are. I moved far away. Um, I haven't given any thought to anything, in my parents' later life. I haven't given any thought to it. I don't care to. I'm not going to like worry about it. The fact that you are just indicates something to me about you that I can't really answer. When you say, am I delaying the inevitable by not helping now? It sounds like it, but this is just counseling that I can't really give you. Without knowing a lot more detail than you can put in a YouTube chat. Maybe if you joined the Discord or something and asked me there, maybe I would have more of an opportunity to answer a question like that. Like, go to my Patreon, and if you subscribe, then you get a key to join the Discord, and I chat with people in a room in between working. Okay, last question before I go. Bob Evans, $50. Thank you, man. $50, Bob Evans. He says, have you ever read or listened to The Curse of the High IQ by Aaron Clarey? No, but I know Aaron Clarey, and I feel so bad. He reached out to me very, very soon as I started getting an audience. I think that he reached out to me when I had like 100,000 followers on YouTube, and he wanted to advertise his book, and I said that I would, and then I also didn't know who he was at all. And I said that I would advertise his book, and then he just got lost in an ocean of emails, and I never did that for him. And I'm not sure if that was unpleasant for him or what. I've dropped the ball a lot. I have been very difficult to communicate with in the last year. No, I haven't read it, but I know who Aaron Clarey is, and I know that he wrote also World Without Men. And I don't know, I'm not like familiar with his work or anything, but I know who he is. I haven't read it, I'm sorry to say, so I can't comment much more than that. Burkeminkil added a question, even though I asked you not to because I was leaving. How do you know you are at level 8 or 9 of thinking? Oh, well, the only reason that I know is because I've studied developmental psych for a very long time, and I've been thinking about it ever since then. If you are only familiar with it because of me, then your best chance at understanding what level you're at is going to be either go read the source material or take the level check test. Like we have Selfmax now. I should promote it. I should promote it a lot more. Selfmax.ai. We have a service that gives you artificial intelligence based life improvement advice. And a part of it is called level check. And level check basically asks you a bunch of questions and you type out the answers, and then it repeats back to you what level it thinks you're answering the questions at. And we have to develop this a lot more, but basically there is what they call in Aquil, they have quadrants, levels, line states, and types. So the quadrants are that thing I was talking about earlier. I just made a video on it called Truthfully, that explains the quadrants. The levels you know about. The lines are like applications for the levels. So you have the cognitive level, and then inside of that you might have like the moral line, and then maybe the emotional line. And so these things are going to all be operating at different levels. You can have a cognitive level that is at, let's say, 7, and then an emotional line that's at, let's say, 5. And then you can even have a moral line that's at like 3. And this, you might be a psychopath if you're a person who can think in a very complex way and see people's feelings in a reasonable, rational way, but you don't actually care about anyone but yourself. Then that might be like a profile of a psychopath. The different ways of thinking are developed to different levels. So when you say, how do you know if you're at level 8 or 9? Level check will read you back the cognitive level, which is always your highest one. It'll tell you the level at which you're answering the questions. It's the highest level you can reach. It won't say anything about these. So the way that works is to tell you what's the highest level that you are reaching when you are focusing. When you're putting all of your energy on, I want to answer at the highest possible level, it'll tell you what's the highest level you can get to. And I personally believe it's very accurate. I haven't had it like scientifically reviewed or approved of by science people yet, but we are planning on trying to do that. And I think that it's going to work pretty well because it seems really, really accurate. I remember when I was level 6 and how I grew out of it, but I don't see the way forward anymore. You don't see the way forward through what? Again, this is one of those questions that I don't have any information. How do you know if you're at a level 8 or 9 of thinking? I'm level 7, as I remember when I was level 6, how I grew out of it, but I don't see the way forward anymore. The way forward with what? What do you want to go forward with? What about your life right now is not enough? Is there some way that you're thinking right now that is not satisfying to you? You don't necessarily want to get to higher levels, by the way. I'm always careful to say this. Well, I don't know about always, but I was careful to say it in the original levels video, that higher is not always better. And some people have a really hard time. Like I had a very hard time in level 6. Some people have hard times with different levels. Women have a difficult time moving from level 6 to level 7 because it involves a lot of selectively shutting off that God Saad, it calls it, I think, what was it? Weaponized empathy, suicidal empathy. He calls it suicidal empathy. And that suicidal empathy that comes online, when this one gets going and you have the whole Imagine by the Beatles and everything is love and we should love everybody. You get that suicidal empathy because you have people down here who are like, I'll kill you and take everything you have. And then you are going, but we should love everyone. It's very difficult for most women to move out of this level and onto the next one because it involves shutting that off. And you have to go, oh, so we're supposed to understand and love everyone, but only as long as it actually makes the world a better place. That's what they're not getting. Love everyone, care about everyone, accept everyone, but only as long as it actually makes the world better. And it doesn't just enable a bunch of monsters who want to kill you. That part they don't want to listen to. So, the higher levels are not for everyone either. Like, I remember when I was moving from here to here, and it was a big relief. And that was when I put on all the muscle and girls started liking me and everything. It was when I left this sort of I have to be good and love the world stage and turned into, oh no, I have to actually make things work. And it isn't good to just be a martyr and to just say how much I love everything. This level worked really, really, really well for me. This one is working pretty well for me. I think maybe the same or better. I think that I get peaks of this one, and I'm not sure if I like it. I'm not sure if it's going to be great for me. It probably would be a bad idea for me to make the effort to be here all the time and then get stuck in it, because there's no chance that I'm ever going to go to the next ones. We don't even know what it is. It's so rare. But I don't know. Different people react to them in different ways. So if you want to develop even more, it usually is the same overall way of doing it, which is thinking about the way that you think. Like, a good example of going from 3 to 4 would be a criminal goes to jail and thinks about, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done all that stuff because like it hurt other people. And if everyone did that, then the world would be really bad. And then he gets out and he kind of understands why he should be good. And a good example of going from this level to this level would be, I believe in the Bible, but some people believe in the Quran and there are other things too. And I believe in it because it says that God wrote it and everything, but other people believe that too. So how do we know? Like, that's the what moving from that one to that one sounds like. So it's always the same. It always is looking inward and going, my old way of thinking isn't really cutting it anymore. My old way isn't really cutting it anymore. And then here, you get people focusing on material success and business and everything. And when they get all that success and they still feel empty, they go, well, why do I feel empty? I have everything that I thought I wanted. Who am I really? Like, why is it not satisfying to me? What is life really about? They get to that level. And then when you understand what life's really about and you've done all your exploring, then you go, well, let's put that to work. Maximize, make life as good as possible for as many people as possible. Minimize damage, all that stuff. I don't know, it's kind of a long answer without really getting to the heart of your question. But what you're saying is you remember being in level 6, you remember when you grew out of it. You don't know the way forward. Why does there have to be a way forward? Are you doing well? If you're doing well, don't worry about it. If the way that you talk about it, I think that it is pretty likely that you probably were here and moved on. There's very few of those people anyway. Why don't you relax? Why don't you have a beer and just be glad that you got there and put it to work? This one isn't necessarily more effective. It's not like when you go from here to here, you're going to make more money. Some people go from here to here and they go, oh, damn it. I didn't want to know all these things. That's how horrific. I like this one. But I don't know, it can be pretty uncomfortable. I imagine that being in this level could be uncomfortable for some people because it's like you don't get to lie to yourself really at all anymore because the reasons that you're doing things become so nakedly obvious. And you're just very honest about yourself and with yourself. And if you don't particularly like who you are and you've done a lot of bad stuff in the past, you kind of have to deal with it. I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is if you're trying to go up past 7 on the levels, like if you're down here and you want to grow, definitely I encourage that. If you're up here, I would say probably put your effort into something else. And if you do that, if you do that correctly, if you put your effort into something else, if you look out into the world instead of in, you probably will get to a point in the world that's going to make you self-reflect anyway, which is the way that you go up. I would say look at what you can do instead of navel gazing and focusing on yourself. I wish that I had a better answer for Bob Evans' question. He gave me $50 to ask me if I read a book, and I said no. Sorry I couldn't do better, Bob. But my voice is fading, and it's Christmas, and I'm going to go eat something really boring because I'm trying to lose weight. I'm not even going to have a treat. I am going to go and make you guys a video that should be done next week. Okay, thank you for being here. I'm going to go into the main chat before I leave and answer 1 or 2 questions. I'm going to join MS13. That's the first thing I saw. God, that guy. Is level 8 painful? It says, dude, Joe, it really depends on who you are. It really depends on who you are because it just makes it a lot easier to understand the stuff that people usually keep hidden, especially yourself. So if you want to keep a lot of stuff hidden, it can kind of be hard to deal with. Let's see, who else is in here? Beats. Many have Tren de Aragua friends. Is that what's Tren de Aragua? Is that also a gang? You guys are just talking about Mexican gangs in my chat? I need a mods. Scott Adams says it's the role of the woman to transfer resources from a man to her child. Yeah. And that's why you have to make sure that it's your child. Because otherwise it's your resources to someone else. Okay. I think that's good. Once a week on Tuesdays. How many times do you go live? Bill, I usually go live in the evening in America on Tuesday, usually, but sometimes I skip it. So I think that when did I start today? 7, it's like 4, 5, 6 p.m. on Tuesday. I'm a little loose about it, but I do it. I have it on my calendar for every Tuesday, and then I do it like every other Tuesday. Okay. I'm going to leave. Merry holidays. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Oh God, how do I stop it on my... Oh, there it is. Okay. Sorry. I'm learning my software. Goodbye.